So, Daredevil Born Again episode 5 and 6 are out. The ratings are high, everybody's loving it, and yeah, it's still total garbage. I don't know how, but every week this show somehow gets worse.
Where am I?
But before we get into this utter trash, if you want to support the channel, you don't have to. You could jump over to my Patreon and it would be greatly appreciated. So we were graced with 2 episodes of Born Again this week, and I thought we were actually going to be in for something good. Maybe we were going to see some Punisher or some Daredevil in the suit action, or he'd be hunting down a serial killer, and he did none of that. We basically got a full filler episode and then another episode that had tons of stuff that didn't need to be anywhere near the show. I'll tackle the first episode, which I believe is the monstrosity out of the 2 we got. So after episode 4, Daredevil was looking at the suits again. He picked back up the stick and he was ready to become the vigilante once again. And then we got a full filler episode that just told us that again. No, I'm not joking with you. This episode meant literally nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if it was added in after the show was entirely shot, just to add on another episode. And straight away I knew it was going to be the bank robbery that we saw from the trailers, but I didn't think they'd drag it out for an entire episode. And if it was Matt Murdock in the middle of a bank robbery and he had to stop it and take down the criminals, I wouldn't actually be too annoyed. But it wasn't just him. We were also accompanied by one of the biggest, most unreal, legendary Marvel Universe cameos of all time. Some random Indian guy that's absolutely insufferable. So instead of cooking curry that has fatal food poisoning to anybody who ingests it, this Indian actually works in a bank. And from the first scene of this filler episode, Matt Murdock walks in and we're supposed to give a crap about this scene or something, when this Indian guy who can't act is just being really annoying for no reason, showing him his custom Funko Pop of Kamala Khan, the fake Miss Marvel. So basically what the people at Marvel did was they looked at a really interesting classic Marvel character, Miss Marvel, and they said, hey, what if we made her unattractive, Indian, took away every single piece of skin she was showing, and also made the fact that she was Indian her entire character. Nobody watched Miss Marvel, that's a fact, and they're trying to fit in a cameo thinking that people will care. Nobody wants to hear about Miss Marvel if she's not white. Nobody wants to see young little Kamala Khan and Matt Murdock have a little team up. If you want people to care about your universe and your show, bring back the real characters, bring back the real Miss Marvel, or go screw yourself. So as usual with Daredevil Born Again, this episode is filled with some of the worst lighting you've ever even seen, and some of the worst acting. Like, I just realized that nobody can act in the show.
Rodriguez.
Were you?
Detective Angie Kim.
Fuck off.
Not one character is believable, and nobody even matches the tone of the show. When this show was announced years ago, the guy who ran the original Daredevil Netflix show, which is a million times more superior, said that he was going to pull back on the film noir influences and focus more on just a basic crime story. Yeah, that really worked out well for you. If you just stuck with the noir influences and you made a show that people actually liked and that was dark and was consistent with its tone, then maybe you could have had a good show on your hands. But instead, the entire show of Daredevil Born Again is basically a comedy. You go from deadly serious bank robbery hostage situation into joking and laughing and weird sound effects.
Wow. That's one impressive diamond. Could I please request if you could get me a snack? Just a granola bar.
And Matt Murdock acting like a complete idiot. When stopping this bank robbery, Matt Murdock fights one guy and he struggles and falls down an entire staircase. Now this is Matt Murdock, the same guy from the comics and the Netflix show who could do stuff like this. And that was just the Netflix show holding back. In the comics, Daredevil can beat almost anyone in a fight. Yet he just forgot how to do it in this one and is getting his ass kicked by some random Irish thug. And this episode also continues with the incessant swearing.
Your job is to prevent every hostage inside the bank from getting a fucking bullet to the fucking head.
And this fake cop, this fat Chinese woman who's trying to calm down the hostage situation, yet she doesn't actually care about anybody's lives, has to tell a joke to one of the bank robbers to get some of the hostages out. And instead of telling a normal joke that you could just write in the script, they create this extremely blasphemous joke. And the funny part is, for the entire episode in the bank, there's people praying for their lives, and they're actually praying more than we've seen Matt Murdock do in the entire show. Before we move on to the episode that got slightly better, but also was an absolute mountain of crap, I just have to point out this hilarious moment that we were supposed to take seriously. So in the first 5 seconds of the episode, Matt goes to the bank, and then as he's leaving, he's halfway down the road, and he hears the bank robbers enter the place using his senses. Stan Lee has talked about it multiple times about how good Daredevil's senses really are. Matt is on the phone to the black, ugly bitch, Mac Duffy, who is literally fake Karen, and randomly, out of nowhere, he hangs up and says, "Call 911. How does she know where you are? How does she know what's going on? What do you mean, call 911? I'll give him some slack. He mentions that he just came out of the bank, but how is she supposed to ring 911? And the even funnier part is when she does, 10,000 squad cars and every cop in the city is showing up outside. How do they know it's a bank robbery? How do they know to bring SWAT teams? They just get a random call from somebody saying, yeah, somebody just told me to ring 911 near a bank. And the police force takes it seriously and sends every cop available. We're supposed to take this show seriously when they're putting in moments like this, but then every other moment is a joke or some obnoxious MCU humor. Then we move on to the second episode that has some really high ratings, so I thought I was going to see something actually good. And I don't know how this episode got any of these ratings, because once again it's filled with terrible lighting, stock footage, random inserts of the BB report, which consists of non-white people who are fat and disgusting talking about how bad white people are. And then when we're not doing that, it's Wilson Fisk being told what to do by a room full of people. And once again, I hate to bring it up, not actually though, because I love to bring it up, the fact that the apartment and all of the interiors in this show suck. Why is Matt's apartment so blown out and lit really bright? Remember in the classic Netflix show where Matt would just sit around in his apartment with film noir lighting sipping on a whiskey? Or in the comics where Matt's apartment would be lit by Venetian blinds or red and blue lighting depending on where the story was going. This show tries that once in a blue moon and fails horribly. And for the rest of it, we're left with blindingly bright scenes like this. So the White Tiger's daughter is back at it again with the unbelievable cringe when she comes to the Murdoch and Mac Duffy offices and comes in to talk to Matt. And you think she's going to be humble and come in and say, yeah, I think my father was onto something. Can you help me out? Instead, she's talking to a blind man now, remember. Some random blind dude who's really weak in front of everybody. And she says, it was in your hands and you did nothing about it. The little guy came to your front door and you didn't even help him. You did nothing. He is blind, you retard. What do you want him to do? In this show, people can just antagonize Matt Murdock whenever they want and just get away with it. Matt obviously can't help because he's blind. What can he say to her? Oh yeah, okay, I'll go full-blown Paul Kersey from Death Wish and I'll go out and find who did this. He is blind. What is there to not understand? But anyways, this little girl goes off and tries to find out what her father was getting into or something. I don't know where she is exactly. She's down in some random railway track for no reason. It's not explained how she found this or how she got there. She's just walking around with a flashlight and eventually gets captured by the killer Muse, who has a ridiculous body count that's just cartoonish. Like in this scene with Fisk, somebody just goes, yeah, I think it's upwards of 60 people that he's taken out. What the hell is going on? If you said like, yeah, 10 people, then yeah, this guy would be a real danger. But you're saying upwards of 60. How has nobody noticed this for the last like 6 months? Daredevil, Punisher, White Tiger, nobody caught on to the fact that some dude was racking up a body count of upwards of 60 people. So this guy captures the White Tiger's daughter, and Matt, just like that, gets a phone call in his apartment, and there's no build up, there's no nothing. He just grabs the suit, and then we cut to this absolutely cringe shot that looks like it's from some CGI PS2 game where he's jumping across rooftops and swinging. I'm not even joking, this looks as good as the Ben Affleck movie. Let's compare the cringe from Daredevil Born Again to the in-camera practical stunt work that we saw in the classic Netflix show. So it's a choice. You're choosing not to have some dude jump around like Daredevil in the actual camera and in the suit, and you're putting in some CGI avatar who's swinging around like a PS2 game. I've seen people online saying, yeah, well, at least it's not the Ben Affleck movie. They're the exact same. And if you thought that this CGI was bad, let's have a look at the scene where Daredevil randomly just tracks down Muse. Randomly. It's not explained. So out of the mist, he comes running like Sonic the Hedgehog at top speed, screaming. Yeah, I couldn't help but fall off my chair laughing watching this. You didn't even show us him doing some detective work like we'd see in the comics or the original show. No, instead we got a bunch of filler with Fisk beating up his wife's boyfriend. And then randomly Muse just looks down a tunnel and Daredevil comes speeding towards him and flying through the air like Superman. This fight scene isn't exactly terrible. There's some brutal hits here and there. But the fact that Daredevil can take on one skinny guy, Muse, is just unbelievable. This is Daredevil we're talking about. Daredevil's getting his ass kicked and falling all around the place, when before he was actually accurate to the character and could take on a room full of guys. So let me just get this straight. Daredevil can't fight. He can't track anybody down. He can fly through the air like a CGI CW character. And then when he's Matt Murdock, anybody can just get smart with him to his face and he'll just laugh and, I don't know, chew some sweets like a retard. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little bit excited thinking that we were gonna get an episode of Daredevil investigating a serial killer. But I'm not even being rage bait, I'm just gonna tell you the truth, that this isn't even worth watching. And anybody who's still defending it with its Miss Marvel cameos and its terrible CGI fight scenes just needs to stop coping. And from the brand new trailers that have been released, we've just seen some terrible editing trying to make this show look good. And to be honest, if you don't laugh your ass off at what I'm about to show you, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Genuinely, what are you doing? Matt Murdock is going around doing crap like this. And Wilson Fisk is being cocked and dancing around like we just saw. So Daredevil Yawn Again is shaping up to be the best comedy of 2025, and it's only getting worse. So if you made sense of anything I said, do let me know. And if you got a frelling problem, go complain to your boyfriend.